Welcome back, welcome back. We're in the middle of our head-to-head. So many of you getting in contact as well. A day of celebration, says Christine. This is Trump getting into power, the inauguration. Definitely, I cannot wait. Great show as always. I think we should celebrate Trump. This is Gemma Darling. Good morning. At least someone will be fighting for the British people, which is more than our own government are willing to do. That's Gemma. Lots of you getting in touch, actually, saying it is a day of celebration. Let's just talk now about Sadiq Khan. I mentioned this earlier, and I was so gobsmacked when I saw these clips that I want to play this to our two panellists and to get their take on it. Mayor Sadiq Khan, Sir Sadiq, as he likes to be called now, Sir Sadiq, has been accused of stonewalling questions about whether London has a problem with so-called grooming gangs. This is his Conservative rival, Susan Hall, who stood for London Mayor. She made 9 successive attempts at Mayor's Question Time to ask Sir Sadiq whether there were gangs operating. These are the grooming gangs that we're talking about. She said, look, have we got grooming gangs in London or have we not? Are they actually operating across the capital? Sadiq Khan refused to clarify the situation. Anyway, let me show you the clip. Let me show the panellists the clip, and then we'll discuss what it means. Have a look.
I asked you this question last week and you found every which way but not to answer it. Just how many grooming gangs have we got in London?
Avoiding a misunderstanding, can she define what she means by that?
Yes, if you look at what's gone on in Rotherham, where there are people taking young girls, grooming them for sex, that is what I'm talking about.
We know in London there are issues about exploitation of young people. But they're not as defined by the member in her definition of what those types of gangs are.
So are you saying we haven't got the same sort of gangs that are in Rotherham, Bradford and lots of other places in the country?
Just for you to misunderstanding, what does she mean by that?
You know full well what I mean by that. It's all over the television. You know exactly what I mean by that. These gangs of people that are grooming young girls for sex. Do we actually have those in London?
Today, I'm unclear, Chair, what is meant by the question. If you could spell it out, I can answer.
I've just spelt it out. Are you not listening? It's the sort of gangs that groom young girls at a young age for sex. Exactly how much clearer do you want me to be?
Wow. Also, Alex Wilson, Reform member sitting on the London Assembly, said to Sadiq Khan, right, look, we've got a major problem with knife crime in the capital. We need a cross-party solution here. Essentially, you need to cut the staffing levels of City Hall back to where they were in 2016. We'll take the cash, we'll put that into frontline policing, and we will stop kids dying on the streets of London. What do you think? Let's have a look at that clip.
The year's only just begun, and already we've seen at least 9 major stabbing incidents on our streets. On the 1st of January, 25-year-old man stabbed on Oxford Street. 5th of January, double stabbing on Kilburn High Road. 6th of January, 18-year-old man stabbed on Prince Imperial Road. 7th of January, we know the tragic murder of Kellyanne Bokassa, stabbed in broad daylight on a bus. Also, 7th of January, reports of stabbing in Mile End. 11th of January, stabbing and 2 shootings in Homerton. 13th of January, father of 2, Gregory Castillo Volquez, stabbed to death in Haringey. And on the 14th of January, stabbing outside City and Islington College and also on Ilford High Road. My team has been working on a budget amendment where we would like to fund almost 1,000 police officers to deliver a targeted knife crime task force. And the way we do this is reduce the cost of your staff budget back to 2016 levels. That would give us the funding to do this. Now, obviously, I can't table that as a budget amendment on my own. I need support from other groups. Would you encourage members of other groups, perhaps your own group in the Labour Party, perhaps the Conservatives, perhaps anybody, to second that amendment so that it can be discussed and debated in full next week at the budget meeting?
As a rule of thumb, I never encourage anyone to work with reform.
Fiona.
Well, I just don't understand why you can't give a straight answer. I just, you know, I mean, if we look at the Rotherham scandal, it was the worst thing that's happened to this country in the last century. You know, there's been avoidance and finger pointing about that. So,
But he was pushing her to say Pakistani grooming gangs, which is factually correct. She didn't do that. Now, maybe she should have done that, but the contempt in which he held the other Assembly members there is transparent. Alex Wilson also mentions, look, kids are dying on the streets of London. He is the Mayor of London.
Yeah. And I mean, you need straight answers. You need safety. The public needs to know what's going to be happening. I just don't know really what was wrong with him when I was watching that clip.
So, look, this is a tricky one because
is it?
I think, well, yeah, because the direct question was how many grooming gangs are operating in London. Now, he should have said, I don't know, because that is the honest answer. You don't know,
we don't
I don't know,
data.
we don't know. We don't have the data. He should have said, we know this has been a massive problem nationwide. We know for a fact, because, and by the way, this is where, you know, might be a slight departure from your listeners here. We have had 10 inquiries already. We've had 1 nationwide inquiry, and I think we've had 9 local inquiries. So we've had all of these recommendations, a lot of work and a lot of money and a lot of time and thought and effort has gone in to...
But we don't have the answers. To
defining the problem.
No, we don't.
And when I talk about defining the problem, what we know...
Just answer Sadiq Khan.
Well, I think he should have said, we don't know. And I don't think he should have said... I think he was trying to make a political point about, well, what do you mean? But, you know, say what you mean, say what you mean.
Well, it was obvious what she meant, wasn't it?
Yeah, but and that's why I'm saying he should have said, we don't know. We know it's a massive problem, and we will do everything we can to try and tackle this. But on the policing point, I think that's a really important point, not just on knife crime, but generally. The police have a lot to answer for with this grooming gang scandal. They weren't doing their job properly. And I think as much as we should probably be putting more resourcing into policing, we also need a better police force, and they really did not do their job on the grooming gangs.
So you're basically absolving Sadiq Khan of any responsibility there, because surely what he should have said is it's the interest to stop kids dying on our streets, and
correct,
and we need to do that, and the cross-party support would be welcome.
Yeah, I agree, and that is what he should have said, and I think he was too dismissive. But I also think, you know, this is not Sadiq Khan's fault. Let's just be really, really, really clear about this.
Well, I think it is actually
the grooming gang scandal.
I think the failure of people, senior officials to get to grips with things. He's in charge of the Met. Ultimately, he's in charge of the Met.
He's in charge of the Met, and the Met hasn't been working for a very long time, going back way before Sadiq Khan was Mayor of London.
Fiona.
But if you're in charge of something...
Yeah, the buck stops with you.
Yeah, but if you're in charge of something, if somebody asked me a question, even if I didn't have the answer, I would say, right, we haven't got the answer at the moment, we haven't got the data, and data is crucial for this. Data is crucial. However, this is what we're going to do. These are the steps that we are taking, because that gives the public confidence. We have no strategy, we've nothing in place, kids are dying on the street. Yes, he should have really answered that, and then he should have said, and this is what we're going to do. And the grooming, the grooming gangs, we need, it's all right having all these local, you know, discussions about, we need a statutory inquiry. That is what we need. We need to know exactly what's going to be happening, because we need to have a plan so this doesn't happen again, and we need to learn lessons from it as well.
So I agree with that. I'm not against another inquiry, although we have had them. I'm not against it. However, the concern I have with another inquiry is that it's yet another excuse to kick the can down the road.
I agree.
And there are 20 recommendations sitting on... Actually, I think it came out when Liz Truss was Prime Minister, so it sat on multiple Prime Ministers' desks. None of them have done anything about it. And this reminds me a little bit, although it's much more serious, of the post office scandal, where it was going on for years, nobody paid attention, and suddenly everyone goes, oh, maybe we should take some action now.
But
so
I think,
yes, another inquiry, but action too.
But I think actually the government is being pushed. When you look at Labour MPs like Dan Carden, the MP for Liverpool, Walton, Andy Burnham calling for an inquiry. Look, there is a sense in this country that actually we're not being told the truth, that these grooming gangs are operating, you are right, in that those local inquiries have taken place, but they do not have the police powers to actually force people to give evidence, and that is the difference, and that is why you need a statutory inquiry. I want to know, and people watching this programme want to know, what do you know? How many of these gangs are operating? What has been hidden from the public, and why didn't the police actually intervene? And is it political correctness? Because I think it is.
Well, I think it is, because I think I can't point fingers at anybody until I know the truth, and at the moment there's a lot of finger pointing, and the only way we'll know the truth is if we have that inquiry, and then we learn the lessons. Because the problem we've got, even if we pass it on everybody's table, like you've said, and it's on everybody's table, that is to do with the way that they organise the government at the moment.
Yeah, so let's do that. Let's have that inquiry.
Yeah.
Let's, by the way, not do what Nigel Farage says and say we need to wrap it up in 9 months, because why put an arbitrary timeline on it? It might take longer than 9 months. And the other thing, speaking of Nigel Farage and speaking of the truth, is he says nobody was covering this, the mainstream media failed. I was talking about this in 2012. Well, in 2011, The Times ran a massive investigation with a front page saying revealed grooming gang scandal. They made it clear that it was largely Pakistani men who were involved. So this has been in the public domain and on the front pages for 14 years. So let's just be clear that there's not been some massive media conspiracy, which is what, frankly, some people within the Reform Party are saying.
Well, and I have to go to a break here. I mean, and at the same time, Yvette Cooper has announced plans for a nationwide review, still no national inquiry. I think that's out of kilter with what the public want.